Welcome to another message from Columbus First Assembly. Thanks for listening as we strive to learn and live the Word and ways of God. Our hope is that you're encouraged by today's message.
Thank you. To give a little context to that situation that was up there, me and Pastor Rick actually went to the Children's Museum together, just us two. And you may be thinking, okay, these two grown men at the Children's Museum, that's not normal. Look, we had a great time, okay? It was so fun. We went and saw the Star Trek Observatory twice. That was actually Pastor Rick's idea, but we had a good time. I mean, we did get weird looks, but it was awesome. Some kids were watching me dance, and they were like, what the heck? It was great. Okay, so some of you in this room are a little nervous because you saw the title of the sermon, and you're like, and let me tell you, boomers, you've got something coming. I'm just kidding. You'll be okay. But to start this up, I just want to tell you a story. I was doing laundry at my parents' house, and in my apartment, we don't have a washer or dryer, so I have to go separate places to figure out where to do my laundry. This day, I was at my parents' house, and they left some of their laundry in the dryer. So I had to do my laundry. I had to put my laundry in the dryer, so I took my mom's laundry out and put it in a basket. Later on, she comes to me, and she says a little sarcastically, "Hey, thanks for balling up my laundry." And I looked at her, and I was like, what? I didn't. All I did was take out the laundry and put it in a basket. And she just kind of rolls her eyes and moves on, and I take my laundry. I walk out into the kitchen, and my dad says to me, "Hey, if someone balled up your laundry, what would you do?" And I just said to him, "Thanks for taking out my laundry." And this is just an example of just some things that you don't learn in college. You learn so much about just different things and about certain life things, but man, this adulting thing, there's a lot that they don't teach you. For example, how to get a car. I had to figure that one out a couple weeks ago. My car was smelling, and I was ready for a new car. How to cook chicken. I figured that out. Love Google. It's great. Me and Jordan have been trying to figure out this, when to take the trash out. Our trash can was overflowing with trash, and we were just like, darn it, we missed it. Thursday morning, we got to take out the trash. And it took us 3 weeks, and we finally got it this past Thursday. You can come over now. Our trash can is empty. You're good. Internet and bills. Making a bank account. That's a scary thing, walking into a bank and saying, "I'd like to make a bank account," and they're like, "Okay," and then you're like, "All right, we're doing it. This is cool." A couple years ago, I was driving up to Wisconsin for a youth camp, and I was going. And when you drive to Wisconsin from here, you have to drive through Chicago. When you drive through Chicago, what you find is a bunch of tolls. They're everywhere. As soon as you go through Chicago, there's 4 or 5. And so I didn't know what to do. I mean, this is my first time ever dealing with a toll as driving. And I'll tell you the honest truth. If you're my age or a little younger, you're not going to carry cash. There's no way. I do not have $1 in my pocket. I'm sorry. I have a card. But so I'm getting so worried about these tolls, and I'm driving. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I gotta go pay this toll. What if I stop there and I don't have the money? What are they gonna do? I still don't know. I'm still worried about it. But they had this lane that was the toll pass lane. I don't know what it is in Chicago, but I went through this toll pass lane, and I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll call them. I'll do something. And so I go through this toll pass lane. And then we go to a youth camp, and I have such an awesome time, and I completely forget about it. Drive back, I'm so tired. I get home, and it's out of my mind. 2 months later, you all know where this is going. I get some mail. It's a letter from the government. And it says, "Hey, you have been fined $80 for not paying these tolls. And I'm like, what is this? I go to my dad and I'm like, what? This isn't fair. I didn't even know this existed. And he's like, sorry, dude, you gotta pay that or call them and try to get it passed. And I called them and they said, no, you're gonna have to pay this. So goodbye, $80. It's crazy how much our generation, the ones of us who go through college and are trying to figure out life, there's so much that we have to learn that honestly we don't know. And a little context to my parents is they're in a generation called the boomers. If you were born from 1946 to 1964, you are a boomer. So I want you guys to participate a little bit. Raise your hand if you are classified in this. I won't ask you your specific age, so don't worry. Okay, I see some of you. Okay, there we go. More hands are showing up. All right. 1965 to 1980, we have the Gen X. Raise your hand if you are a Gen X. All right, we got some of you guys. 1980 to 1996, we have the Gen Y, or the millennials. Raise your hand if you are in this. That'll be me as well. And then we have 1997 to 2015. Those are the Gen Zers, little tykes over here. Look at you. Awesome. And actually, do we have anybody who's before this? It's actually before 1946, we have the silent generation. Do we have any of you guys? There we go. See you guys. Cool. That's awesome. So there's a little bit of a divide going on right now. And that's actually what I titled my sermon over. The millennials have social media, and they like to post their thoughts of the generational divide. And they come up with this viral quote. It's called, "Okay, Boomer." So you may not know what this means exactly. Some of the young guys are like, oh yeah, I know exactly what this means. So what happens is there's just a disconnect. Like they assume that just if you're a boomer, then you don't understand what's going on in my life. You don't understand what's happening. So, for example, if a girl's hair is cut short and you have a boomer that comes along and says, "Why is your hair cut short? You're a girl. Your hair's supposed to be long." They say, "Okay, boomer." Or they say, "Why can't you get a summer job and pay for all your college tuition through the summer job?" We say, "Okay, boomer." Just different things that go on. Why are you eating an avocado for breakfast when you could eat cereal? We say, "Okay, boomer." Why are you getting a job at a coffee shop when you can go get a career for your life? They say, "Okay, boomer." I was reading this article the other day, and it was a boomer. And obviously with the past slide, you saw how they said that the boomers were like, care about health, care about intelligence. I bet you $1 million that was a boomer who made that picture. But I'll keep going. In an article I was reading, an older generation talked about all of the things that millennials were ruining. Some of them were kind of serious. Some of them I laughed out loud because, well, LOL, because I just thought it was hilarious. So I'll show you some of the ones. Marriage, hotels, working, credit, the NFL, baby names, department stores, golf, lunch, McDonald's, vacations. This next one is my favorite. Napkins. They ruined them. You ruined them, guys. We ruined it in America. So, I mean, you could say that this is like the biggest divide that we've ever had, ever. Like these generations, they're so clashing and they don't like each other at all. But we have this simple thing in our pockets where we can just post whatever. We can share our opinions to the entire world, and everybody's had opinions, but now we just get to get these megaphones and tell the whole world our opinion, whether it's great or whether it's not, whether it's positive or negative, whether it's right or wrong. You post it. And so it's like we're both just yelling at each other, the loudest it's ever been. Now there's a story that actually Nathaniel Dooner inspired me to share with you guys this morning. So Israel is a nation, and they've had kings. They've had multiple kings at this point. They've actually had King David. He He was known to be a man after God's own heart. He was a great king, and he did a lot of awesome things, and he did some battles and just was an awesome king. He was known as fantastic. Yeah, he made mistakes along the way, and there's a couple parts where he just didn't do the right thing, but overall he was an awesome king, the best king. Then after him, he has a son, Solomon, who is the wisest king that ever lived. Great king. He grew the kingdom to be so large from so little, and he made so much money, and he got all the wives he could ever want, because that's what success was to people in this age. But, I mean, later on in his life, he figured out, you know what? None of this is really worth it. It's just worth honoring God instead of getting all of this stuff, and that's what he was known for. He was a wise king. And then he has a son, and he's the next king, and his name is Rehoboam. Rehoboam isn't talked about as much, and there's a reason why. In his first appointment as the king, Israel is the most unified it's ever been. They've got some leaders that they have, and they're just ready to go. They're just a strong nation, and they come up to Rehoboam as soon as he's appointed king, and they say, hey, Solomon was a good king, but his reign on us was hard, and he just put a lot of weight, and our yoke was very heavy when we were under him, and we just request of you that we don't have that same burden. And so Rehoboam thought about it for a second, and he said, give me 3 days. 3 days, and I will give you my answer. So they said, okay, we'll leave. So they left. And he goes to talk to his elders, his counselors, the people who have been with the past king, and he says, what should I do? They said, well, Israel's the most unified it's ever been. I mean, if you make them mad, they could 100% rebel. And Rehoboam is just thinking about it, and he's like, I don't like that answer. So he goes, and it actually says he goes to his lifelong friends. And he says, what do you guys think I should do? And they said, Rehoboam, you need to lay down the law on these Israelites. You need to tell them that even if Solomon put his burden on them, I'm an even stronger king, and I will put an even stronger burden. He says, you should say to them, my little finger is stronger than King Solomon's waist. I guess that's an important thing. My little finger is more strong than his waist. And, I mean, he whipped you as punishment, but I'll put scorpions on them as punishment. That's what they wanted him to say. Just you show them who's boss, Rehoboam. So which one do you think he listened to? I mean, you probably can understand, you're probably thinking in your mind, you're like, oh, I've seen this situation a million times. I've given people advice a million times, and they've listened to the wrong people, and then the bad things happen. That's just what it is. So the Israelites come back. They say, so, Rehoboam, what's your decision? He says, Israel, my little finger is bigger, is stronger than my father's waist. My yoke on you is going to be even heavier, and I'm going to put such a burden on you. He punished you with whips. I'm going to punish you with scorpions. And so Israel said, all right. They left, and they all left the kingdom of Israel. The only town that was loyal to Rehoboam now was Judah. Rehoboam actually sent a messenger, someone to collect taxes from the people, and when he sent that man, Israel just stoned him. They stoned him to death, and he died. And so Rehoboam is ticked. He's thinking, these guys can't rebel against me. I'm their king. I'm the one in power. I'm going to put such a hurt on them for not being my nation. And so he builds an army in Judah. He has 180,000 men. He's getting ready to go into battle, and he's like, oh, I'm going to show him who's boss. I'm going to show him what's up. And so the night before, they're about to go into this battle and just take Israel back. God gives every single one of those men a dream. He says, don't go and fight, because this is my will. So the next morning, they all wake up, and they're like, well, if God's will is for these guys to be separate, then I guess we'll go home. They went home. They left. Rehoboam lost his kingdom. Now, I think later on, and I think about how old Rehoboam must have been. Like, you would assume that this man was in his early 20s, trying to figure out his life. He was a young buck, but I found out in chapter 14, Rehoboam reigned for 17 years, and he got the kingdom when he was 41. This guy, he's probably seen the kingdom. He probably was old enough and wise enough to see the last king do his reign, but he made this decision. He was 41. What does this tell us? It tells us it's all the Gen Xers' fault. Just kidding. I think the problem that we face is it's not so much a generational, this generation is naive and this generation is disconnected. I think the problem is a lot more big than that. I think it's a lot bigger than that. I think it's the fact that we all just make dumb decisions. We do. And I think the choices we make after that is what's essential. Now, boomers, I can talk to you, and I talked to Pastor Rick a little bit about this the other day. Do you guys remember your teen years? Now, I don't want to call you out on anything, but remember the 1960s. You had protests, riots, the civil rights movement, hippies, Woodstock. It was crazy. And I was reading about David Yealy and what he had to go through when he got back from Vietnam, and he was a soldier, and people spat on him. It was crazy. I think it's just generations are generations, and people can rebel, and young people just need to figure out their life. I was trying to figure out and find a verse that was like, okay, how do we get other generations to accept other generations or to be respectful to other generations? And I couldn't find anything because I was asking the wrong question. The question I should have been asking is, how do I be honorable? In fact, it's not about getting honor. It's about living a life that is honorable. Now, I know, as a youth pastor, and I've just been a short time, you know that quote that says, respect is not earned, or is not given, it is earned? And I think it's a cool quote, but then I think about it a little more, I'm like, yeah, but even if respect is earned, are you still going to be given it? As a youth pastor, just a little bit of months, I've realized that no. Even if you've earned it, you're still not going to be given respect. But is that the point? Now, I think back to the situation that they were in. The Israelites they just left the kingdom. And Rehoboam, he's probably beat up and done, out for the count. And, what did his friends do? I picture his friends just being like, nope, you messed up, I'm out of town, they just never saw him. But the elders, those people, they said, Rehoboam, you messed up, you destroyed this kingdom, you ruined everything, now we're done for as a nation. No, they didn't. They stayed as elders. The point I'm trying to make here is that maybe the millennials and the Gen Zers and the people who are trying to make decisions, maybe they're not Rehoboam. Maybe we're all Rehoboam. I love the word honor. The definition of honor is adherence to a standard of conduct. What is our standard of conduct? If we're following Christ with our lives, it's to be like Jesus. Now, I read these verses and they were just so essential to what a life of honor really is. And as soon as you read them, it's just so convicting as to what I should be. Romans 12, 9 through 14. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people in need and practice hospitality. Like already, I'm thinking, okay, I can't do, I'm not good at all of this. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction. When affliction comes, I'm disappointed. I don't feel hope. I don't feel like I can go on. But he says, no. Be patient. Practice hospitality. But what if I just want to stay home and not deal with anybody? You mean practice hospitality to the people that I don't like and I don't want to deal with right now? Those people? Yeah. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And this last verse, Pastor Rick said it to me, and I didn't realize that I even put it in my sermon, but I was just dealing with some just hard stuff this week, and when I heard this verse, I was just so convicted. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. There's sometimes when people are making decisions and you're not liking what they're doing and you just want to, you just want to be like, okay, God, just this time let me take revenge. Just this once. God's like, no, it's mine. But no, live in harmony with one another. Live at peace. Don't repay evil for evil. Love one another. Wow. I don't know about you, but in my life, I don't know how well I am at all of these, and it's going to take a lifetime to get that good. And if you say, Evan, I'm following all of these things, I'm living this honorable life that is written before me, then I say thank you so much, because I need that. I need to see that, so I know how to model my life. Now, you could say that this generation, the younger people, are the craziest they've ever been, and maybe they are. But that's because the world isn't the craziest it's ever been. I mean, the life we live, if you look at the news, the reason why I don't like to look at the news is because it's so depressing. Because the world is crazy. That means that when someone is living an honorable life, when they're honoring God with everything that they can, they are going to shine such a light. And I need to see it. The millennials, the generation that says that they're so disconnected, we need an example of what it means to live an honorable life. Now you're probably thinking, why should I care about this generation? Why should I care about the generations to come? And I'll show you. Now, if you see here on the bottom, it goes to 2036. And what do you see that's happening? The boomers are slowly going down. The Gen X is slowly starting to go down, and soon enough, the millennials will. By the year 2050, there's not going to be much boomers left. And I look at that, and I'm kind of like, oh, I better get as much out of them as I possibly can, because before too long, they'll be gone. I think about the perspective of, man, this is the worst generation. It's hopeless. Why can't we think, how can I make this generation better than our generation ever was? Think about how much of an impact that we could make when we build up this other generation and we try to raise them up to be amazing instead of thinking, oh, it's hopeless, they're gone. Man, we can make such an impact. I'm still learning a lot about being an adult. But I love to see generations above me that have a couple more years or a lot more years that I can just see and think, okay, that's how I want to live my life. Even if I made these mistakes along the way, and even if I had these troubles, I want to be like this person who dealt with forgiveness and is now just such an honorable, loving person. Even if they dealt with so many trials in their life, they're still following God wholeheartedly. That's an honorable person. Now, I will say on behalf of my generation, we need you. I need you. I need people who are good fathers. Because honestly, this generation doesn't see much of that. I need people who are great husbands to their wives. I need people who are just living to go after God, even if there's discouraging things around them. They're going wholeheartedly, having crazy hope and peace, even if every circumstance says not to. Matthew says, be the salt of the earth. Salt in this time was a preservative. It was as if it was like a refrigerator. It just kept the food from rotting. And let me tell you, the world is getting way more rotten every day. And so we just need a little bit of salt. Just a little bit more salt. And after it says, be the salt of the earth, it says to be the light of the world. And with how dark everything is getting, it's so easy to just shine a little bit of light. Man, it'll shine so bright. Live an honorable life. One of the most discouraging things for me as a pastor, and my family can attest for this, I've seen so many pastors fall. And I just think about how the devil just wants to attack that because it affects churches as a whole. If you affect the leader, then it's going to tear everyone apart. And I get so burdened because I don't want to be one of those. But I know someday I'm going to be a great husband. Because I watched my dad treat my mom like a queen. I know I'm going to take care of my parents when they're old. Because I watched my mom take care of her mom for the last 3 years of her life. And let me tell you, my grandma did not deserve the treatment that my mom gave her. But she loved her. So you can bet I'm going to take care of my parents. Even though I've seen some dishonorable pastors, I've also seen some honorable ones. And I've lived under them, and I've seen their example and how they're just not going to leave God's call in their life. And as an example in this room, Pastor Rick, he loves this congregation. He wants to honor every single one of you. And the integrity that the man has when he's just making decisions, he wants to honor and love his congregation, and I respect that. We need honorable people. Now, millennials, Gen Zers, listen. There's so many people who have lived so much life, and yeah, you can Google so much and learn from YouTube, but there's so many practical things that they have that if you just look and think, okay, I don't care if I look dumb. I don't care if I'm just seen as naive. I'm going to put my pride aside, and I'm going to say, okay, I need your help. I need your help. Because if we live the way that the world says and the way that just media says to live, then we're not going to do it right. We need God-honoring people. And altogether, what we need is to honor God and follow Jesus' example. I was coordinating volunteers during my internship. And there was a lady. She was greeting at the back door. And we were running out of people on the front door, so I went back there and I just requested of her, hey, could you come to the front door? And she said to me, no, I'm not going to do that. I was thinking to her, what are you talking about? I'm in charge of you. You got to go to the front door. And she's like, no, I've been here for 20 years, and I was just so frustrated. Because I didn't know what 20 years meant. I've only lived 24. And so later on, I'm just frustrated. I'm like, she didn't leave the door. She was being disrespectful. She didn't honor me. But then I realized that she has the same face at that door for 20 years. The same people go through that door year in, year out, and they want to see her, and she has an identity there. She has a duty to be at that door for the same people. And I don't know what that means. Now, one thing that I love about these older generations is they could stay at the same job and they will honor the same job, and I want a piece of that. Because that's awesome. Our generation just wants to make an impact. We want to impact something greater. And you know what the devil would want to do? He'd want to divide us. Because he knows the damage that we would make if we were unified. And if there were people who were living honorable lives but also were choosing to make an impact on this world. Wow. Watch out. So will you live an honorable life? Pray with me this morning. Jesus, pray for anybody who's just hurting. God, if only they would have listened to me, if only they would have respected me in this decision, made the decision that I wanted them to make, God, their life would be so much better, God. And I'm so broken because of it. But God, I choose to live my life. God, we choose to live our lives to honor you, Jesus. God, the world is getting darker. There's no doubt about that. And if you're in this room and you say, Evan, I choose to be a light. I choose to be the salt. Just so that a little bit longer, I can help people in the next generation. If that's you in this room, I want you to just raise your hand. I see you. I see you. All over this room. God, we bless you. And I pray that you just fill this divide, God. I pray that you allow my generation to listen to the generation above them, not feeling like they are disconnected, God, but that they have something worth telling, God. And whether that they're listening or not, God, I just pray for the other generations to just be honorable no matter what, no matter who's listening, God, because they are honoring you with their life. God, we need that more than ever. I praise you so much, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.
You've been listening to a message from Columbus First Assembly. We hope that you've been encouraged in your spiritual journey. If you're not part of a local church and would like to attend one of our regular services, our church is located at the corner of 10th and Iowa Street in Columbus, Indiana. Our Sunday morning worship services start at 10 a.m. and our Wednesday evening studies begin at 7 p.m. And while you're online, check out our website at columbusfirstassembly.org for details and information about our church. You will also find other messages and series that you can listen to or download. Thanks for spending some time with us and for taking advantage of this resource from Columbus First Assembly, where we strive to learn and live the Word and ways of God.